rush.
Good, ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, fine.
All right, in 3, 2, 1.
Hey folks, welcome back to your Frederick Real Estate Update. I am Darren Ahern with RE/MAX Results, bringing you nearly 20 years of experience and helping almost 700 families in the Maryland and PA area here. And I also have with me the man, the legend, the myth, with all the money over in Presidential Bank, Mr.
Terry Kernan.
How you doing, bud?
Good, good. How are you?
Happy Memorial Weekend.
Can't believe it's here.
Yeah, already.
Already here.
Summer is going to officially begin real soon.
I don't remember having a spring this year.
No, it just was here and gone in about 3 seconds. The weather didn't replicate it much at all. I mean, we just had snow on the mountain about a month ago or so. We got pictures with snow and all that 3 weeks to a month ago, and then boom. So I don't know. It doesn't quite feel like it. The weather seems to be nice. The temperatures, we're not getting into that scorching stuff yet, and I pray that we don't. So yeah, so we're going to get on the beach. I know you're looking to have some fun down there too, right?
Yep, gonna head out of town.
There we go.
Down to the beach and enjoy
all the good stuff.
Enjoy the large crowds and the pandemonium that goes along.
Yeah, it'd be nice to go down. No masks, going into restaurants and on the beach and everything else. You don't have to swim in the ocean with a mask on. The only mask you gotta have on the ocean is your saltwater looking for shark mask, right? So, all right, let's get started here, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. As always, we have listeners, as you know, from all over the country that have called in before and all that. So this is about you. Today we're going to hit on some subjects that the most relevant things you are going to hear in real estate. That's what's happening in some of our local stuff as well. So thanks for tuning in. You can go on WFMD.com in the drop-down menu. And Terry, everybody can go ahead and hear 256 programs.
256.
Yeah, everything that they can imagine. Today's number 256 here, so they can imagine anything you can imagine with real estate. It is on there, but Terry and I are always here to answer your questions. So inventory 337 total, 337. Remember I told you we're not passing up 550 this whole year unless interest rates go to like 8% or 7. Then we could start to see some real pushback. But right now we're at 337. 214 resales, still seller's market. This has changed this last week. Days on market's up to 14. It's gone up just a little bit. Buyers are not pulling that trigger as fast. That's what that all means right there.
And what was it before?
11. It was 11, so we're up 3 days in 1 week.
We're up almost 30%.
Yeah, so we're definitely seeing, I got one house, I got a few that taking a little bit longer. Buyers are, we're getting less showings, taking a little bit longer to get someone to pull the trigger. A lot more questions and strategizing. That's what we're going to talk about today for buyers predominantly. So average median sale price, $486. New construction, $126. Seems like that number is going to stay around for, I don't know, forever and ever and ever, amen, right? Coming soon, $87. This is the big one. We still can't get past $100, okay? I don't think until we get past the consistent 100 and 120 coming soon type, or just the resales getting above 300, there's just no panic because that's that buyer demand that's turning them pretty good right there. So pending under contract, we got 482 resales, 906 total across the board. So we have almost the same. New construction and resales are 50-50 almost in about 10 farms. Sold in the last 30 days, 451 with an average time of 11 days on the market. So there's where we're seeing that little tweak in that. So what are your thoughts on the inventory local area news on that?
Well, the housing or the new construction is going to continue to help us get through this. But we did see a big drop in new home starts last month, dropped 12%.
Yep, I saw that.
So that was a big number. So the 337 resales that we have out there, I always take out the 126.
Yeah.
I always do that. So we're over 200 on the resales. That number just has to keep climbing. But I think here's why I think it's going to climb is I am seeing not as much demand out there not as many phone calls. What's happening, in my opinion, is the 5.5%, 5.25%, 5% rates are starting to set in with people.
Yep.
And they're starting to realize, wow, it really is 5.25% now.
Yes, yeah, and it's just gonna stay steady there and all that. So, yep. And as buyers, you either deal with it, like it, love it, hate it, doesn't matter, and move forward and get you a house, or you can hope and wish and pray that things adjust downward down the road. But we're not really seeing that too much. All right, Terry, what's happening on your streets of the mortgage world?
So let's go over a couple things. The focus is going to be the big news that they keep coming is, so the GDP, the gross domestic product, okay, that determines how the economy is doing. So in the first quarter, it was down 1.5%. Okay, so our economy contracted 1.5%. The prediction is the second quarter, our economy is going to grow by 2%. Okay, let's think about this prediction. They're predicting that the economy is going to grow. Okay, what happens if it doesn't grow? We are in a recession, and that is not good. So why would somebody predict that we're going to contract even farther and be in a recession? So there's nobody out there, wishing a recession, because then we have to start rethinking everything. Are we cutting interest rates too fast? What are we doing? Da 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 da. So basically, let's keep an eye on the GDP. All the other numbers are really not going to affect too much. We're going to have the consumer CPI and the PPI coming out. But basically what we're taking a look at it is, let's keep a focus on the GDP. We'll start knowing that number for the April, May, June numbers. So in July, we're going to probably have to refocus on the GDP. So that's kind of what's happening. There's not a lot going on. Good news is rates feel like they have stopped going up. Okay?
Yeah, definitely.
This is week number 3 where they have not gone up, but they have not really come down either. So we're still looking at 5.25%. Okay, 5.25 on a 30-year. But what I want to talk about today is, what about a 15-year? So I'm getting that call, Terry. What about a 15-year mortgage?
Yeah.
Okay. I have not really quoted 15-year mortgages because this is what's happening in the market. So if this gives you any inclination on where the smart people think the rates are going, this will tell you. And what I mean by that is, people that are in this business, that actually their livelihood is to buy mortgages for the purposes of servicing them. Okay, so if you're buying mortgages and you're expecting to service that mortgage, you're going to buy that loan from me, let's say from Presidential Bank. You'll buy that loan. You'll buy a pool of that loans. The 15-year mortgages, there isn't much demand at all. And this is where it gets interesting. On a 15-year mortgage, you can basically get a rate. So a normal fixed rate 30-year is 5.25. Normally 15-year mortgages are going to be about a point less. Okay, so it's attractive to get into a 15-year mortgage because the rate is lower, plus you're paying off more principal. But here's what I'm finding, that it's cheaper to get a 4.625% 15-year mortgage than it is to get a 5% mortgage. It's cheaper. So what I'm saying is that I can get you 4.625 without paying any points, but if you get a 5%, you're going to have to pay a little. So why is that? The investors are thinking, rightfully so, that rates are going to come down. I keep saying it, rates will be down by the presidential election. We all know that always happens. It's going to continue to happen. But here's what the investors are saying. We don't want 15-year mortgages, especially a high-priced one, a high-rate one, because we know that in 2 years, 18 months to 30 months, the next 18 to 30 months, that loan's going to get paid off and refinanced. So we don't want those mortgages on our books. So that, to me, is a sign that the really, really people that are invested in our business and in our livelihood believe that the rates are going to come down. Does that make sense? Did I explain that okay?
Absolutely. The thing I think about is how many people that are purchasing now in those, say, the last 2-3 months where the rates have been higher, depending on at what point, because there's two factors I think about. Number one, how much equity in the next 2 years, how much will the market go up? We've predicted in our county, Frederick County here, maybe 6% per year, which is actually very, very healthy. So by the time election hits, maybe your value might be up 10 to 12 to 14%, depending on where you're at and all that stuff like that. So that's one idea. The second idea, and is that enough equity? And then paying it down just a very little amount, depending on where the interest rates would be. Terry, where would the rates need to go down to? Because we know they're not going down to 3% and under for the election. I mean, that would just be, I just don't see that ever happening again. But to go maybe from 5 to 4%, how much do you think the rates would have to come down in conjunction with the appreciation that we're going to see in the next few years, whatever that margin is? And let's just say it's 10% to be on pretty conservative overall maybe. Is it worth somebody in a year or two, or 2 years from now, that's buying today at 5.25%, if rates go to 4, 4.25, 4.5, and they have a little bit of equity, is it really going to be, where's the line at where somebody would hear from you and say, yes, this is good to refinance?
So I'm glad you asked that question. Refinances, every one of them is different. And
go ahead.
every one of them is different. And I basically go on a fact-finding mission and kind of pick the people's brains. So let me give you an example. $500,000, there's two, we'll give two scenarios, two $500,000 loans, okay? One is to a young couple that bought a $500,000 townhouse in Montgomery County, and the other is a couple that just bought their last house, and they bought it in, let's say, Frederick County, $500,000. So it really doesn't matter what the counties are, but it's who it is. So if it's a young couple that's going to be out of that house in 3 years, 4 years, that margin of where does it make sense probably goes from a half a point in rate to a full point in rate. But if somebody says, Terry, I'm 42 years old, I just bought my last house, when does it make sense to refinance? You're probably looking at about 0.5% where we can actually run the numbers and say, okay, this is going to come back to you after 24 months. That's usually the guide that I look for. But if somebody has a history of moving, a history of not being stable where they live, because of their jobs or whatever the case may be, refinancing may not be the best thing for you. You may want to take a look and say, so we look at the whole picture. I look at the whole picture and then make a decision with the borrowers to make sure that if they do move forward, that they feel comfortable, and if they do move forward, that it's the right thing for them. And it's all in their mindset that kind of pushes how it is, and it's all in what their life is looking at. So it can be anywhere as little as a half a point better to, if you're a point lower, then let's.
I've always told people that if it's 1% less or more, it's about a 90% chance it's a no-brainer to refinance, especially if you're going from a 30 to, say, a 20 or 15-year mortgage. Then it's even more advantageous because that interest rate is going to be lower at that point, potentially anyways. So,
and I think rates are going to come back very.
Where's your prediction? Give me your thoughts. What's the lowest you think you will see them in the next 2 years? I would say when we get towards more so the election period.
So within the next 36 months, I think rates will climb back under 4%.
Okay.
And I think they'll kind of hover in the 3.5 to 3 3/4.
Okay.
But that's my prediction. If they go to 3, that's great. That's a bonus. Going below 3, something awful would have to happen.
Yeah.
Like the pandemic. And that's the only reason we got under 3. Logically, it doesn't make sense that rates were that low.
Yeah, right. There was nothing that
And
fueled
more
that.
logic, didn't make sense that people were complaining that rates didn't go lower.
Yeah, you ain't kidding. I think I only had one of those, and I said, "Are you serious? Are you kidding me?" So, all right, Terry, that house, beautiful one on Dublin Road, I have on the Monocacy River. I've got 10702. It's Dublin Road in Walkersville. 4-bed, 2-bath on 20 acres with over 850 feet of waterfront property that somebody can bring their kayaks, fishing rods, sunscreen, you name it, nature lover. delight. So it's an awesome property. We just went live, and I've already got a few showings and action on that. And we put it at $699.
You did?
Yep,
Okay.
with all things considered, we put it at $699, and I told my seller the strategy is very simple. Number one, it's a very unique property, so I would probably give it about 3 weeks, about 21 days. If you don't get an offer within 6 showings or 21 days, the value is not right.
Okay.
I talked to an appraiser, gave him all the information and everything, and I said, give me your 2 cents worth. I'll buy you something at Dutch's Daughter, maybe, give you a gift card. I just need your input. And they said, yeah, you'd probably buy it pretty close, somewhere around that. So they said it's
And
brand new condition,
That's what I said
good.
last week was.
So you're the lender, the appraiser. I'm going to get you to be a realtor soon.
Hey.
So we'll see what happens. It's cool property. I'll tell you, I really like it there. And I haven't had too many of those. I've only had 3. I was looking back in my whole career, out of almost 700 of these, 3 properties I've ever had that have been on the Monocacy River, waterfront. I mean, you know, you take a pond or something. I mean, that's what we got in Frederick County. You know what I mean? And you got to be on that river down there. So it's pretty cool to be able to advertise waterfront property, send it out to 20,000 real estate agents, especially those in Anne Arundel County that have all the waterfront property down there on the bay, and to see something in Frederick County, they say, "What? You got waterfront property in Frederick? What's that all about?" Or on the canal, hey, somebody on the canal could be waterfront. Water's water. So, and I know a lot of people out there think because I have a little stream that's 6 inches wide that comes through my property on a heavy rain, I got waterfront property that day. That's about the only day you get it. So, all right, so that's what's happening on that prediction and all that. So that's what I'm excited about. And it's a couple other good properties coming up. Ooh, I got one in Sandy Spring. I'm getting ready to sell on 4.3 acres. A really nice big farmhouse and in-ground pool in the back and everything down right on the edge of Montgomery County.
Yep.
So that one there, all that kind of
Right
stuff.
off of Georgia Avenue.
No, it's off of, it's pretty close.
New Hampshire?
Yep,
Right
over
off
there.
New Hampshire,
So
yeah.
Martin Lane, and Sandy Spring right over there. So coming up to where 108 is. So
Do you have a price on that yet?
not quite yet. We're still evaluating it, but it's a big lot, 4.3 acres. Not too many of them are around, but everything that sits on that size property down there is over $1 million.
Yeah.
So, all right. Here we go. So how would I handle, I got a scenario. This is a good one. Somebody asked, and this is the one I'm dealing with, how would you handle, and how would I advise as a realtor, a buyer that wants to put an offer on a home. The home's been on the market for about 5 days. The deadline is in one more day, but there's no other offers that are competing against. Or let's just say none come in, because I don't think any of them are going to come in. So that's my prediction.
Okay.
So we haven't had this scenario in 2 years almost, right?
Yep.
All right, Terry, you're going to play the real estate agent. Okay. I'm the buyer. What advice, what strategy would you recommend that I tell a buyer there's no offers, none at all? How do you guys want to put an offer on this place? You're the only one in the game.
I would say there's 2 schools of thought.
Okay.
There's option 1 is we just go in at list price or slightly below, and then we don't do any waivers of any contingencies or appraisals or anything like that. And then we let the appraiser dictate where the sales price should be if it is overpriced. Option 2 is a little tougher and a little harder to swallow for the sellers and the selling agent, is evaluate where you think that property should be. Put an offer in, and if they say, what are you doing? I would basically say, here's the data. This is what the data says it's worth in our opinion, and this is our offer. And then without any other offers, I think you can have a situation where the seller says, maybe we better just take it because we have no offers. It's been a week. We have no, so that's kind of my thought.
Okay. All right. Good ideas there. There's always there's also crazy option 3 that could really go off the handle, but I'll conjunction with offer.
Okay.
Option 2, here's what I always do. Number 1, no matter what it is, anytime we're with buyers, I always ask them, what do you think? What do you feel? What would you like to do? And 9 out of 10 times, believe it or not, I do that before we even look at homes.
Mm-hmm.
In my buyer consultation, I just say, hey, here's what's going on. Here's what the market's like. Here's what we're dealing with. These are the facts. This is the real stuff going on. But Give me your thoughts. What would you do? What do you think in all types of scenarios? I like to get to know how crazy they are, or how informed they are, how educated they are, what they know, what they don't know, what questions. And it gives a lot of good content and dialect to go through so that there are really no surprises. And I also have an idea because it helps me to know, like, you know, I don't show homes and then they fall in love with it and then they say, okay, Darren, the house is $600,000. We love this home. Let's offer $550. I want to offer $550. And it's like, whoa, are you kidding me? We looked at 10 homes. This is the one that works for you. You want to offer $550, and this is 3 months ago in the market when there were 20 offers. You want to do what? Who have you been talking to? What are you thinking? Yeah, but we want a deal, man. We want to get a good deal in real estate. Mom and Dad told us to get a good deal, right? That it makes you take your breath away. I just showed you 10 houses. We found the dream house. You're about ready to lose this one. What are we doing here? That unfortunately happens more so than not. That's usually in real estate agents' early careers. I did that, you don't know. You start to get really good. I have about 30 questions that I ask to buyers and sellers of all different natures and stuff like that. Some would almost say it's a little bit of an interrogation. No, what it is helping to be able to make sure that we don't make a bad mistake.
Okay.
Because that's really what it's about. So first thing I do is we're starting to see this more. This is going to get more prevalent, okay? So if you're a buyer, to pay attention, seller, pay attention. Because sellers, I'm preparing sellers now for all kinds of stuff like that. So I still evaluate the comps in the property and market trends, what's going on in that entire area, what's active, what's under contract, sold in the last 90 days. That is the true market no matter what. I do that no matter what. Doesn't matter what's going on. That's the very first thing that we evaluate and do. Based on that data is where I start to formulate if the home appears to not be overpriced for the market. Let's say it's not crazy overpriced. We're going to start to see this. We're going to start to see in the next 6 months to a year a lot of sellers being a little over aggressive because they don't understand where the market is at, what's selling. They know what's selling, but they don't care what they're going to sell. They don't care. They're not really looking at what are the trends, what's going on, how much inventory, and all those things like that. They're typically not going to know how to position themselves to not be out of the game. They're not going to know how to do that.
Okay.
Because too much emotion is going to be involved, too much entitlement, too much, I know more than you, Mr. Agent, and this is what I want. If I don't get, we're going to start to see, Terry, a lot more sellers that are going to say, well, if it doesn't sell, just keep it.
Yes, you're going to see that.
Oh, yeah. And you know what I'm going to say to them?
You're going to see that.
You get to keep your home. Congratulations. We'll just list with another agent. There's 3 business cards of other agents that would love to waste their money and time. Have a great day. That's I'm going to have extra business cards for that one. It's already going to get started. And so I'm going to be prepared to say, no problem. I'd like to help you. I don't have to help you either. You don't have to sell your home. I don't have to help you. That's no problem. No problem. Sellers sell when they're ready to sell. Buyers buy when they're ready to buy. So looking at all this.
So what you can also do is if somebody's selling, generally they're going to be buying.
Yep.
So always remind the seller that you are now becoming the buyer as well.
Right.
So you're going to be able to not have to way overpay. You're going to be able to not have to waive the appraisal, waive the home inspection, pay the transfer, like crazy things that we saw. Remind the seller, when you do sell this, you become the buyer now.
So what happens is in the end of the day, it typically somewhat equals out for the most part.
It does.
But people have a hard time emotionally being able to see how that really truly works and all that stuff like that. So, and before I hand them 3 business cards, I'll say, look, here's my strategy. Here's my professional advice. I can guarantee this is the service you're going to get, and this is about what I can really predict without having a major appraisal issue. This is about what you can expect in the market right now today, okay? Some people, they'll go with it, and I'll say, hey, here's a strategy. You want to start here, X, Y, Z. This is in the ballpark. And then from there, here's how you make small tweaks and adjustment to make sure you get top dollar for your property. Does that make sense? Is that reasonable? And if they still are emotionally crazy attached and they're all over the map, then at that point, it's usually a disaster. They're just going to sink in quicksand and not know it until it's too late. And then they'll call me back later, sometimes, and they'll say, you know what, I get it now. This didn't work out. It's not going the way I want. Yep, I'm willing to do it your way because you have the track record. So here we go. Let's just let you do it. All right, so that's the first thing I look at is the date, all that stuff like that. With buyers, or if a buyer needs, so overprice the market, this one I advise is what you said, is at or slightly below the asking price. Those are offers, not going to hurt anything. But in the event, and we're going to see this, if a buyer can advantage to be able to get closing cost help, then we would go ahead and factor that in. And that would be anywhere up to 3% as a general rule. Typically, and after 3%, it gets pretty crazy because that's covering all the closing costs and some that isn't really even needed to have. It's above, because 4 to 4.5% of the purchase price is about closing cost amount. Mm-hmm. What about as is? We got this question right away. What about as is? Do we have to? No, not necessarily. I wouldn't. There's no need to. Why not? I'd go with a normal home inspection, regular inspection, especially if it's on well and septic, which opens up the door for what? Further negotiations.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with that. Now, the only time I would advise ever, as is with the right to terminate or none, is depending on the condition of the property. If it's in pristine, updated, HVAC's newer, roof is newer, all those things like that, it takes a lot of that inspection guesswork out of the way. Foundation's a big item, though. That's usually the biggest we talked about before in the programs. So that's a tricky one, but I am as always, would be very reluctant to just throw out a home inspection altogether, okay?
And let me just throw something in.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's flipping a property, don't think it's in great condition.
Yeah.
There's a lot of flippers out there that you won't know what they did behind the walls.
Right.
Unless you have a home inspection. And what I mean by that is there's things that they cut corners on all the time to make it look pretty. So just because you're seeing a house that just got renovated on a flip doesn't mean it's okay to waive a home inspection.
Yeah, big time. And especially with foundations, with any water or stuff like that, Terry, one of the things I encountered one time was a flip property, okay? And I noticed in the basement, it was dry, it was fine for the moment, right? What I noticed were two things. Number one, they added a second sump pump on the other side of the house in the foundation.
Okay.
So not just one sump pump, they had two happening. Red flag. Why would you add a second sump pump in a basement? Either drain tile wasn't installed at all or incorrectly or whatever, and then I looked for French drain lines and some other things like that. But what I noticed is when I was in the basement, I stayed there for a little while, about 5 minutes or so. One of them kicked in and started running. Mm-hmm. Well, we hadn't had rain in like a week. Okay. So I was like, that's a red flag right there. Sure enough, there was an elevated, a higher water table, they call it, water table on the property, that where it was located. And I looked on the outside and did some other investigations and found out, oh yes, this property gets an unusual amount of moisture that's going to need to be remediated out of the basement so it doesn't flood. So those are some factors that played into that place there. So last 2 minutes, depending on how well the inspection goes, there's a better chance that the seller will be willing to fix or repair significant items. Or getting back to, Terry, ready your favorite, giving a credit to a buyer so that, we now didn't have closing costs, but now we can put that in there instead of fixing something, just getting closing cost credit and stuff like that. So we're going to start seeing that, and that's going to be something we're going to start advising sellers. Last minute, I'm going to say is that for sellers, you're going to see less showings, less offers in time. We're starting to see that now as the market gets more balanced out. But I would highly suggest, this is something I'm suggesting now, is depending on do a pre-home inspection and fix any items that would be of significance that could possibly scare a buyer off because you're not going to have as many buyers looking at your property. That is a really big deal coming up. I know we're going to get pushed back, but I'm trying to save you to get top dollar for a property. It's a lot cheaper to pay $300, $400 than to lose a buyer that would have been probably paying you more than $300 or $400 in the asking price stuff or cutting it out because of a surprise or walking away. We're going to start to see buyers also getting ready to walk away if there's no negotiating room and the seller's like, no, market's too hot, I ain't giving a dime, I'm not fixing nothing, I'm not doing anything. They may have to lose that, to walk away and lose that. So, all right, guys, have an awesome Memorial weekend. We want to definitely say thanks to all those that do and have served to keep our freedoms intact of what we have in the present condition of our country. And we want to thank you guys for serving. Have a great time out there. Be safe. and we will see you next week on your Frederick Real Estate Update. Terry and I are always here to help out. Take care now.
Very good.